In today's episode, we have a real treat for you. We are actually going to talk with nurse and passionate planner Reese King, and she is going to tell us about how she has all these different ideas but wants to kind of narrow them in to get clarity and find a business idea because although she loves nursing, she wants to have a plan for on later on down the road when she wants that time freedom and maybe have some more options whenever she decides to have kids. I think it's a great idea, and I think that this episode is going to be very helpful for all of you who are looking to get that clarity that comes with deciding on what it is you're meant to do. Welcome back to My Mother's Daughter podcast, where we choose to focus on the controllables, jump off the hamster wheel of grief, and take steps to honoring our loved ones by living a life filled with gratitude, joy, and abundance. It's time to get stubborn about what we want and choose to lean into who we were meant to be, while drinking too much caffeine, owning way more workout pants than we'd like to admit, and dreading that nightly dinner talk almost as much as waking up early. You feel me, sister? I'm Angel McElhaney, motherless daughter, positive psychology junkie, and not so master juggler of my crazy crew, and I believe that you can heal and find happiness after loss. So grab that coffee, put down that to-do list, and let's get to work, one day at a time, together. Let's get started with today's show.
Here in the imposter syndrome, so I could understand the coaching because looking at it a little bit more broadly, that's basically what I'm doing. But that imposter syndrome just sneaks up on me, as if I'm going to coach someone on business, if I haven't run my own business, how would I, direct that?
You're letting yourself basically know that either you are going to take the steps to get there to where you have that credibility, or that you have that essentially learning. So maybe I'm going to take this course. Maybe I'm going to, what do you need to, so here's where I want to be. Here's where I am now. Here's where I want to be. And then you kind of work backwards to like reverse engineer that. And sometimes that does mean that you are going to take a class or take a course. But other times it's that you are just going to own it and step into what you already are doing. You don't technically have to have a course or a certification to become a coach, but obviously you do need to know how to help people. And so that might look like I am going to hire a coach myself. It could look like I'm going to take a course. It could be that I'm going to join a mastermind. It could be that I'm going to consume a whole lot of books. Do you know what I mean? So it really could be, and then you could kind of figure out along the way, like which kind of to zone in even more. Like, are you helping them with systems and productivity? Are you helping them with how to juggle it all and like time block? Are you helping them with how to make a creative business? So like you almost have to think of it as if you are already there and that you are grateful for it, and like and so you're almost acting like you're grateful for something that you don't have yet, and that puts out like the vibes, the positive vibes, and then they like just come bounce back to you, which I know it sounds very woo-woo, but it's very it's like stepping into and attracting what it is that you want to you. Because otherwise then you're putting out right now like, well, I can't do that, like I have to have so much, I have to have a business. So then you're like, you are those that's what bounces back. So so essentially your messy action would be probably to help the people, like build the audience, and maybe even help people to put it out there, connect with them the way you said, like just like you're in a living room eating pizza and like listening to them vent and solving their problems. Because what's coming out for me is I hear that you're like, that you're guiding them or that you're helping them with their productivity or with their systems. And so I don't know how savvy with you are on creating that sort of thing, but that's kind of what pulls up. And then sometimes it could be that you're helping them possibly with does that sound more like it's resonating more, or more like that you're going to help them with their creative business?
It sounds like, because you're pulling all this out of me. Like I'm just basically, I feel like I'm word vomiting, and you're like, oh no, that's what it sounds like, coaching. And I'm like, well, now that it comes out of your mouth, yeah, it does kind of sound like that. So I feel like if I went that route with coaching, now that it's kind of becoming a little bit more apparent that that's already basically what I do just with people that I'm close with, it's kind of, to me, like it would be a little bit of like the system productivity in regards to business. Like, you know, kind of making things more efficient and flow a little bit easier, or, you know, helping with content, or, you know, bringing in, you know, customers. Because I'll be thinking of too, like, this same friend that I was mentioning with nursing school was talking about starting a photography business. And I, you know, basically made her like a pricing menu and was giving her business ideas as far as, well, you can do mini sessions and you can do these themes these months and offer that. And so I feel like it would be something more that direction, like kind of helping plot how to grow a business and kind of make it more productive, I guess.
Well, and some of those things are even marketing. So it sounds like you are helping. So I help women plan and systemize their business. And it sounds like, just thinking back to this person that you're helping, that she's overwhelmed. So it's kind of like, maybe she is planning or swirling around on Pinterest with all these ideas, but she needs that like big sister person role to kind of like come in and be like, guide them to the next step, or here's what
Right.
you
And
do
be like, no, you
next.
can actually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is some sort of, I feel like, skills with, if you're looking for, it sounds like you're okay with the income that you have right now, or are you wanting
Hmm.
to make money pretty quick? Or are you wanting to?
It's not so much something that I'm, you know, wanting to quit my job tomorrow for. Like, I'm fine staying in nursing and seeing this through and building this on the side. And I would even be fine if this is something that meets my current income. I would still be fine doing nursing and this together for a while, because
Mm-hmm.
I still want to keep my license active. And I'll, you know, if it's something that I eventually could see switching over to my business as aside from nursing, I could just drop down to PRN to keep my license active and still be able to carry this through. But I've been trying to think of long term too, you know, as listening through podcasts and, you know, entrepreneurship and business, you know, coaching. What do I want from it long term? I want to eventually be able to stay home, provide an income that, you know, is worth having, as aside from, you know, stepping down on my income that is contributing to my family, and eventually being able to stay home with my kids and, you know, kind of coach my husband as well into his own business, because he wants to do eventually, you know, fishing guide, hunting guide. That would be something that he would dream of doing, but right now just isn't in the cards for us, because we want to finish, you know, building that foundation.
Sure. And so honestly, like, it also sounds like you would probably put their businesses, possibly even in a VA role, just so you could, like, that might help you to get the confidence to step out
Hmm.
to coach, almost like a in between,
Right.
like, so I'm going, oh, okay, what do VAs help with? Oh, they help with Pinterest and putting them on, and or getting pins on there, or making pins in Canva, or posting, doing these systematic things that it sounds like you're really skilled at, that a lot of people are like, that is their, oh my gosh, I don't want to
Hmm.
do this. Um, and then, in order to, so let's just think back to so we don't get too far ahead, the action steps. So does I help women plan and systemize their business sound like what your promise is?
Yeah, I think that sounds a lot more like a sustainable business plan to me than, like I said, how I kept diverting back to the hobby stuff. Like, to me, the coaching, the systemized planning for businesses, that's something that I could continuously build on and, you know, create a sustainable income and, you know, business off of.
You know why I think we do that? I think we do that because that's a physical product. And
Hmm.
so there's so much of our brains that are just like rooted into how things used to be, to where that service, like a mug, is like such a clear thing that they're getting for the value. And so
Right.
you just need to do those steps to where you're working on seeing the value in your time of helping them, of help, all this stuff. And plus you've been doing it for free. So it's kind of hard sometimes where you're trying to figure out that value of that.
Hmm.
And so for action steps, like, did you want to because you're in charge, I know we just have a couple more minutes, but if you want to, did you want to try to think of a name or a description of what you do for people? Or are you wanting so that you can then maybe make an Instagram page and then maybe even decide like, this sounds like a blog, or I build my audience with a YouTube channel or a podcast? Because Facebook is great. It's just nice to have something that is yours.
Right.
If they change
And
the algorithms or, basically
mhm.
something, then you have
it,
of your own.
if anything, for social media, I'd probably resonate more with Instagram. In between podcast or YouTube, I feel like it might be more YouTube if I did that route. But speaking on the virtual assistant you had mentioned, I'd even been looking into that as well, just as something to kind of like dip my toes in the water, I guess you could say, to like see what I could do to be of service, to kind of get a feel for how I can help people with their business. So I feel like that would be a good thing to add to my action plan, just to kind of try out and, see how I can do with helping people with their business.
Okay, so then in the Instagram, like what would you call it? Would you brand just your name, or and then you could possibly even just have this as your promise in the your one sentence line that you get?
Mm-hmm. I'd probably do some variation of my name. I wouldn't want it necessarily to be like, my first and last and something just, very simple. I'd kind of do some variation of it. And I may at first aim at the virtual assistant portion until I kind of had a better grasp on the coaching.
Sure.
And then I think as far as like my direction would probably be kind of that strategic business planning with women, and whether that be, servicing them in their business and as a virtual assistant, and then eventually leading into coaching. I feel like that would be a good way to tie into both and kind of build up for that eventual step up on the platform for my foundation.
Okay, so for our action steps, I would recommend building that page. So, and you might want to put a timeline on it, just because you tend to, well, you said it, where you like think and, overplan. Right. And so, make the Instagram page, and that's going to be making yourself get out there. And then don't, overthink the picture part, because, I can't do that because I have to have a photo shoot or, I'm just trying to be devil's.
You're already in my head, because I already do that now. I'm like, well, it has to be picture perfect before I post it, or I have to get like this perfect background, this perfect lighting, or I need to take, original photos. I can't use stock photos, and, just simple things like that.
Well, and just know the fact that your person, remember, she is just hanging out in college. She is trying to figure all this out. And so she'll probably resonate with like you being just kind of real. So I would recommend making the Instagram, and then putting that as your promise. I help women plan and systemize their business. This will help you own it. No wishy-washiness in there, right? And then I would start putting things in your stories. So stories are huge for people to start to, that's essentially going to be like your mini YouTube almost, like to know, like, and trust you. And so what I recommend is letting them see your life, and then letting them see face to camera, if you can, once a day. And I know that can be kind of scary, but you can even put a filter on there. And then asking them a question. So the first part that we just talked about was owning it, putting the promise in there, just owning it, making the page, putting it out in the world, like, hey, I am helping people systemize their business. Who needs a virtual assistant to help you beat the overwhelm? Like, you're putting it out there. And then that second part is you have to offer it. You have to like put out an offer. So that could be also in your stories, to where people are seeing that they need your help. And then I would recommend getting into some Facebook groups, because proximity is going to be huge too. You want to get around people who are doing the things that you want to do, so that you can also learn from them, but not like you're piggybacking on what they're learning, but it's just that you are going to be able to have like a good model. I mean, think about even in school, like you are, or even in nursing, like you are learning from the other people around you, right? And so that'll be huge too for you, helping to not have that fear. And it'll also help you make those connections. And then what I would recommend is in some of those groups, the business groups, there's going to be plenty of people that if you want to start like doing some stuff for free, or to build that social proof, or like at a low price point, just to kind of get that practice under your belt, but also the social proof. So I know there's several groups where you can kind of put like, hey, I am working on this. Like you could even put like, I am helping 3 people this week do this and this and this. Does anyone need help with one of these? And then chances are they will, and they'll be very grateful for it. And they'll probably speak about you, share their stories and that sort of thing. And so that could be used for helping you build a following, but also just to, and maybe even they would possibly hire you later. And you're not asking them for that so much as you are just getting that proximity part around it. You're getting around the people. And then I think those are like great steps, because I don't want to give you too many because then you'll like overplan it.
I feel like that's like really great, because like I'm actually taking notes while you're telling me this, because like I do resonate with, you know, the freebies, like, because I'll do that as well with like some of the craft stuff I'll do, because I just want the practice of doing it, and that's absolutely fine with me, because I want to be able to see, you know, what I can improve on and learn on it without, you know, feeling like I'm robbing people and giving them something that's not worth, you know, what they feel they're giving for it. So I definitely feel like I could do kind of the virtual assistant and just be like, look, you know, I'm offering this free for just a couple people because I want to play around with it and see, you know, what comes of it. I did just have a super quick question. So with my planning, I try to give myself like the perfect setup. So with that, I mean, like, if I'm, you know, like I'm thinking about this virtual assistant and wanting to play around with like a little bit of graphic design, because a lot of times people need that for their content. So I'm sitting here telling myself, well, I'm going to have to get like a new laptop, and I'm going to have to get an iPad in order to do this and use the Procreate and da. And so like, it's almost like I almost have to have everything laid out in front of me before I even get to starting. And that's another one of those things that blocks me from my over planning, because I'll tell myself, well, I have to, you know, get all this stuff and, you know, buy all this stuff before I can even start. And I know that's not true, but it's just kind of a barrier that I have to overcome.
So, and you don't, and there's so many great apps. Have you ever used Canva?
I have not. I actually just saw about it the other day, because someone, like I said, was mentioning and asking for a virtual assistant with someone with familiarity of the Canva app or whichever, but I wasn't familiar with it myself, so I made note to kind of look at it later on.
Canva is awesome. That's where I made my workbook, and it's so user friendly. There's a free version, or you can get the pro version. I think it's like $12. It's so worth it. And that is huge for you to just like, if you want to play around in there and figure that out. You can make PDFs in there. You can make like little videos. I don't know if you noticed, but in the workbook, you can even make like clickable buttons where it'll redirect you back. And what's cool is so what I would, after all these, like, and I don't want to give you too many steps, but the next one would be probably to figure out either a blog, a YouTube, or a podcast. And if that does look like YouTube, what it would look like, because you want to be able to put some content out there. And maybe it is just kind of screen sharing, and like once you learn Canva, like showing your clients how to use that, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be anything. It's basically showing just a couple steps ahead. And and remember, you're thinking about yourself in a year, so you're going to be even a little bit more ahead. But even now, I feel like I thought the same thing whenever I started photography, because I thought, oh, I don't have like all this, you know, the flashes and all of the these lights and stuff. I don't have a studio. And then honestly, it was a friend of mine that went to my church that took pictures for us, named Bridget Davis, BD Photography. And she actually came and took some amazing pictures, and she had her camera and, you know, outside. And I was like, well, maybe I'm just using this as an excuse to kind of make it to where I can stay in the safe spot.
Exactly.
And so I definitely think that just putting yourself out there, so owning it and then offering it, and then just start creating. So whether it's messy or not. So fixing the Instagram, and then posting in your stories, and then probably want to maybe set a time to do the YouTube channel if that's the route you want to go. And then probably you'd start building kind of your community. So eventually you would probably want to think of an email list, and I don't want to overwhelm you or anything, but there's free ones like MailChimp. And then after that, like you could have where you could think, get one of those buildable websites where maybe your YouTube channel goes back to that too. But I feel like you have like the basis to just like get started. And then, so I would my next thing would probably be, don't get stuck on the name. If you feel like you don't know what the name is, just go with your name, because that can pivot. Like if you make it like, Big Sister, I keep going back to Big Sister VA, or Big Sister business and coaching, or whatever, like that is harder to rebrand or change than it just being your name, or some part of your name, because then you can still be you and still pivot, and have these multi things come out of that. So, all right. Well, I hope that was helpful. It sounds like it
was so helpful. I felt
good.
like it was all on my part, all word vomit, and you made total sense of it.
Well, awesome. I can't wait to see what you do, and I'm super excited to be updated. All right. So until next time, I just want to leave you with this, that you are capable, you are strong, you are your mother's daughter. Wishing you joy and abundance, Angel. Hey mama, before you go, if you found value in today's podcast or you learned something new, stop over to iTunes and leave me a review. I love hearing what you are thinking of the show, and also connecting with you over on social media. You can find me on Instagram at angel.mcilhaney or on Facebook. So check the show notes for that crazy last name. And until next time, I just want to remind you, you are capable, you are strong, and you can do the hard things. Wishing you joy and abundance, Angel.